I think Indiana's taking it. Boy, that felt good.
Thank you so much for these great people on the screen here. They are supporting our channel to bring you more education like this. If you are interested in joining the crew, come on down. The link is in the description below.
Lion Golf Academy members and guests, welcome back. We are going to be answering your questions from our last community post. Because we're going to try and come out here once a week or so when weather permits. It does get about 110 to 125 from this point until September. We got lucky, we got a cloudy-ish day, so it's mid-90s. We're coming out here, taking a look at your questions, answer them as best as I can. So stay tuned, let's get going. Okay, so for future episodes, just follow us. So if you like this type of stuff, hit that like, share, subscribe. On our community posts, I ask questions that you want me to go over in real life situations on the driving range. I'm going to try and answer as best as we can. So our first question today comes from Bruce Roberts. Please discuss the weight shift in the golf swing. So weight shift it can be somewhat complicated. It can also be very easy depending on your natural tendencies. The best way I can describe some sort of weight shift is if you're to throw a ball, you definitely want to get some weight from the right foot to the left foot. For me as a righty, so I want to feel this weight distribution. Now that all really depends on your range of motion. Can you make the rotation needed to get that weight distribution naturally? Because if I just go ahead and turn my body, wherever I turn my body, because I'm forward bending as I start, if I maintain that forward bend posture, the weight distribution does occur naturally, and I can just basically push that weight to the left side. But couple things can adjust this is your ball position. So if I start a ball position that's too far back, I will either really slide over to try and reconnect that golf ball to my tilting at impact, which will then leave me staying back here, and now I'm trapped. So ball position really plays a part in this, making sure your shoulder tilting is related to that ball position. So in other words, where do you start and where do you impact the golf ball? If the golf ball is too far back, we could see some increase of tilting this way to try and accommodate that. We could also see the hands thrown too soon.
So it wouldn't be a Tony Brooks production unless we run into some audio issues. And this time, this is a brand new mic that I ordered, and it just fizzled out me twice. The first time was right here, and then later on. So we got most of the audio, which is good. But basically, you see me throwing a golf ball, and that's about it. And the next question comes to us from Eric Zeller Show. The pre-shot routine into perfect alignment and perfect setup at address. I just basically said, I don't think there's such a thing, and we'll go from here.
Your range of motions, I've seen great setups where you start, back over here. I've seen great setups where they start like this. So there's no real universal way to set up. Now, alignment is a different thing. I typically play a pull because of the way my body has decreased its ability as I age. Now, I know I play a pull, so I aim for the right to play that pull. Now, if I'm trying to cure my pull, I first need to cure my alignment to aim straight at my target, but then I have to look at, okay, what's the compensatory motion that my body was doing to allow that pull, and also address that. So it's not simply just getting up and thinking like you're going to aim straight. It's really hard to do because our feet need to aim parallel left of our targets, and it really depends on your target. So I know I talked about this in our last range session about taking that aim. You want to just look at your target, pull something back so it's right here. So in other words, draw a line from your target to that area. Could be in front of your golf ball, could be out over here. Choose a blade of grass, and then build your setup around your club face. So you want to lay the club face down first, and then build your setup accordingly. Now, it's all relative, because remember, what hits that golf ball is the club face. It's not necessarily the body. So it's how you compensate around your body. But I can start like this and still learn to hit a ball fairly good. And that was actually a pretty well struck golf ball. And on the contrary, I can really set up this way and learn to hit a golf ball too. Now, those are two different ball flights, about the same height. The second one moved obviously left to right. It was a pull. That's more like my natural motion, which reminds me, what was I working on last time? Getting the arms more in. Yeah, it's holding off. All right, question number 3. Lead foot at impact. How to push back with heel. I tend to use my toes. Lead foot at impact, how to push back with our heel. I'm assuming you're talking about this move here instead of this move here. So usually it's weight distribution. If my toe is going into the surface, into the ground, my heel's coming up because everything's working this way. We're doing a little shaft humping as opposed to this. Now, is one way better or the other? That's the golden question you have to ask yourself. Some of the best ball strikers, Jack Nicklaus had a little shaft hump, Greg Norman had a little shaft hump, and there were arguably two of the best ball strikers that ever lived. So just because it looks good to stay in your posture and give yourself the clearance room, if you're not able to take advantage of that with the rotation, with the hand release based on your ball position, I wouldn't really spend too much time on it, quite honestly. You just need to look at where do your misses occur. Are they left? Are they right? How often do they miss left and right? Is it one-sided miss? If it's one-sided miss and you shaft hump, you can get away with it. So don't get too caught up on positions. Obviously, if that loss of angle this way by you moving into the ground is causing some issues down towards your impact position, then yes, you have to address it. But why is it losing that? Is it losing it because your body's not capable of maintaining that posture? Or is it losing it because of an inefficient starting position? So that's where you go back to checking your alignment, checking your ball position relative to your tilt, even as much as gripping. You know, if I have too strong of a grip and I don't want to release, all of a sudden I might have to feel to hold off that angle. I might block this way and shaft hump to hold that club face open. So there's many things involved. So don't go changing stuff willy-nilly unless you understand why you're changing it and is it the best line of approach to change it. All right, question number 4 comes to us from Scotty Jacobson. I'm sorry, I meant to tell you Eric Zeller was the second question and Louis 356. So this one comes to Scott Jacobson 7613. How to fade or draw the ball on command by tweaking setup. Man, that's quite a tall tale, on command. I don't know very many people that can do that on command. Basically, you're looking to adjust your path and your club face relationship. You want the ball to move right, you need a path that's moving left of that club face. You want the ball moving left, you need a path to move right of that club face. So essentially, you can do both of those with the same setup if you can hold off the club face at impact relative to the path. So if you have the same path, you can still hit a fade this way and a draw this way, depending on how that club face is relative to your path. So if your path is going inside out 5 degrees, let's say, as long as your club face is close to that path, it's going to go left. As long as that club face is open to that path, it might go right. So you just got to be very cautious of what you're trying to do with setup, because it can take the opposite effect. But traditional, let's talk about some things we can change. If I want the ball to curve left, I might play that ball slightly in the back of my stance. So if I'm setting up here, I want to maybe move the ball position 1 ball back. If I want to get it to go right, I might move it 1 ball to the left. And why is that? Because when I come into the ground, here's my impact. So if I'm coming inside to out, let's say the ball position is here, my path is going to be moving right to my target. But let's say
I think it's the heat that is making that microphone kind of chopping it out. But where I was talking about was moving the ball position back. When it does go back, that means your path was most likely, if you're traditional, it is going to be coming more right. On contrary, if you move the golf ball left, it is going to be exiting left. So you can start to change your ball flights just by moving the golf ball positions. Here I hit one with the golf ball slightly back, it had a little draw, and here I hit one with the golf ball slightly left, and it did have a little fade.
And that one went a little bit to the right, shockingly. Now you have to take my word for it, because I don't have that flight data stuff. So if you know how to do that, send me a message. But ball position, just change your ball position. See if that helps you right away. If not, then it could be a little bit more of a tweak. But ball position is everything. That's what I keep telling you every single video. Check your ball position, because your whole swing revolves around it. Okay, this one comes from PTR Hetting. Why cricket players always play it steep? Well, man, I'm not even going to pretend I know the answer to that one. But the second part of the question is, would like a discussion on how to train or work on moving the club better. You know, there's this whole concept. So there's this whole concept of what we need to try to do to make the club head move more efficiently. And the reason I don't like doing these types of videos is because you can't really explain it correctly, because everyone's so unique. But I guess the way I would explain it to myself, if I'm trying to explain what I feel is my body is kind of moving in a position to allow my hands and arms to carry over that rotation, and then my hands can just be a little bit more free while they release. You don't want to have stiff hands. The hands have to move. The club head has to pass through your shoulder tilt right about impact. So you can't do that effectively when you're holding on, because it'll pass through way too late, and you don't want to throw from the top because it'll pass through way too soon. So it's all about timing, but you got to think about carrying a big heavy potato sack, holding the potato sack and moving that potato sack more with the body, and let the hands and arms just kind of go along for the ride. So, you know, effective club control comes from effective body control. So you can just think about the body moving and let the club just work around that body, and that takes just a disciplined routine in terms of your setup, making sure that it's the same sort of way, but it all depends on you, your body range of motion, your limitations, your hand-eye coordination, your talent, all that stuff that we keep talking about. So I don't know if that answers your question, but it might give you a little bit more insight to at least what I think. And obviously my swing is completely different than yours, so just think more like the club head has to be moved by the body, and it can't really move the club head unless it's moving itself. But check your range of motion first. Okay, next question comes to us from Paul Garmit 2430. Action of lead knee, fold in or bend down. So in other words, does it fold in or does it bend down? Really depends on your range of motions first of all, but a couple of different ways you can do it. Folding in typically means it's more rotation and more of a traditional motion where your spine is going to be a little bit more away from the target. Going this way usually means that we're kind of stacking on the left side, and we have to, you know, preserve that energy on the left side. So you don't want it to go, you know, left side while it's falling in, because now you'll collapse. So it really depends on what you're after. You know, traditional, we're going to do a traditional where the lead knee will fold this way, like collapse in a little bit, because we're rotating, and you can probably see a little bit more rotation, a little bit flatter. I'm not sure, that's just what I felt. Second one, we're going to do more of a stack and tilt where the lead knee will work this way, and I'm going to be more stacked on my left side. So two different contacts. That one was a high bleeder right, probably very steep. So it really depends again on what you are looking to accomplish in your swing. Are you trying to stack and tilt it? Are you trying to be more rotational? Are you going to keep your light knees closer, further? A lot of this has to do with your, again, body makeup, range of motion, talent, timing, hand-eye coordination, yada yada yada. Okay, next question. Man, I gotta get a clipboard. I'm gonna faint picking up this thing. Comes to us from Timothy Slaughter 476. How to keep from chicken wing. Chicken wing. Many reasons to chicken wing. I've heard of a lot of people talking about rotation. So rotation. I rotate, I don't get the chicken wing. That is true. However, I don't think many people talk about tilting, because if I tilt too soon, what am I going to do? I'm going to hit the ground, so I have to learn to pull that club back up to flatten it out, because the more I tilt this way, my ground gets involved too soon and I have to avoid breaking clubs. So tilting could be an issue. It will all definitely point around ball position. So many times, and this always comes back to that stealing that forward press. We don't steal any forward press. So if you start from the beginning and you steal forward press, what you're going to try and do now is increase that tilt to hold that angle, so now you can level it out to try and swing up. But when you do this, what comes into the ground again? So we start to do this to make room to time the flip. Another thing we can do is we get the good weight distribution, but now guess what happens? If we release correctly, we boom. So we either start to stand up and flip, and that
Mic check again. Here I'm just talking about how the body's not responsible for squaring the club face, but the hands and arms do need to do a lot of that, and let's keep it from here.
hold that club face square, because the club face has to release down. But it all depends on ball position. So it's where that shoulder is tilted. With a driver, you want to be a little bit more back, so everything's connected here. With an iron, we want that ball to be more in the center, and we would like some forward press. So that usually comes from not necessarily you adding forward press. It comes from you leveling your weight distribution. So that's why we get a little bit more weight on the left side with an iron. So we're up, where golf ball is more in the center. We level out the tilt by getting our weight slightly on the left side. And we just, man, that was just smoke. What is this? 5 iron? Okay. I thought it was like a 7. Shows you how much I play. So I hope that helps you. But let me know in the comments if you need more explanation. All right, we got a few more here. This comes from William Kerner. How to practice and how to play. This is a big one because playing and practicing are 2 different things. Playing, you're trying to score, and it's not necessarily a postcard, it is a scorecard. And then practicing, we're learning on how to shape the golf ball, utilize our foundations. So I think the best way you want to try and go about practicing is practicing to score. Practice like you play. And you want to just try and emulate golf courses. I guess not emulate, simulate golf courses. So if this was me, I would grab my driver, I would get up here and think about a golf course that I usually play. I'd go through my pre-shot routines. I'd try and purposely choose a ball flight, get my practice swing and whatever I need to do. It's not going to be any different than when I play. So when I play, I don't really take practice swings. So I just get up there and I'd hit my driver. Boom, I'd watch it sail in the air, and I'd think to myself, on my golf course, where did that ball wind up? If it's in the right rough, luckily I'm over here practicing on grass, I can scoot this over from our next shot, put it in some rough, and say, okay, this would probably have been 150 yards. So let me hit my 150 yard shot now. Let me go on my back, pull my club out, give myself a minute or 2 to get as close to simulation of a real golf course, because you can only hit one every few minutes. So then I'd go and hit my 9-iron, and I'd play like that. Now ideally, this is the perfect world. You have a putting green right next to you. So then you go and chip and putt and then play 18 holes like that. Obviously, if you don't have a putting green, we have a putting green, but it's about 300 yards away. I'm not going to go after every 2 shots walking back and forth. I probably need to. Too many cookies. But I hope you get my point. So in other words, have a piece of paper out, just simulate a score. How many fairways did you hit? How many greens of regulation were you able to hit? Go do chipping and putting. But if you want to work on something a little bit more fast-paced, you can do shot shapes. Change your shot shapes. Hit 2 slices on purpose, hit 2 draws on purpose, hit low shots, high shots. Don't get caught up in just trying to hit straight shots, because how many times have you been required to hit a straight shot in a game of golf? It is very rare. You're always trying to shape a shot. Either the shot calls for it, your eye calls for it. And I think too many amateurs I see get on the driving range and then just beat driver until they blistered up, and you only hit the driver 10 times around. Why are you going to spend 100% of your time hitting drivers? Work your way through the bag. Come up with games for yourself. I usually put 2 alignment rods, maybe 10 yards out, and it's my target to hit it through. And I try and hit it through my target and then shape the shot around that. So let's say, for instance, I'm trying to hit a low slice. So I'm really going to try and exaggerate. So I'm going to put the ball way on my left side. I'm going to feel like I'm going to try to, shallow this out. Oh man, I hate using that term. Ugh. And let's see. So that was a low, and it definitely, that actually moved pretty good. That was a low 5-iron. Again, you have to take my word for it, but you get my point. You got to just keep yourself entertained, have some goals to achieve, because hitting golf balls and playing golf are 2 different animals. Hope that helps you. Let me know in the comments down below. We got, I think, 2 more questions, and it's starting to warm up now. So thank God. Mr. Gold Hat, love that name. Release. Can't figure out the best way to do it. All right, so if you're looking at release, you've got to look at where the release came from. So biggest recommendation for you is don't just go straight to release. Obviously you want that to be your clue. It's like the game of Clue. This is your murder scene, right? Your impact, might look like this. That's your murder scene. Okay, you can't solve a crime with the murder scene. Obviously there's clues, so you have to go back and interview people and put 2 and 2 together. So you have to interview your body. So why is it like this? You work your way back and see where things get out of whack. Look at your ball position. Look at where it is in relation to the centeredness of you, and also your tilting, because that plays havoc on how the club will work into the ground. Is it too down here? Is it too steep? Do you have to get out your own way? And wherever your body's moving, your hands are like the last line of defense. They're saying, I've got a ball to hit over here. I'm way over here. I better start doing this to hit the golf ball. And if you're trying to change this without affecting this, it doesn't matter what you do. You're never going to get impact right. So the goal of this channel is to teach you how to check your cause and effect, where to look at what goes technically wrong or technically, different, and then you can start to piece them together and then make the changes into it. But most of release issues come from setup. Now, let's say you've gone through all that and you take a look at your setup. There's nothing wrong with going under. There's nothing wrong with going over. There's nothing wrong with holding, pushing down, and then flicking under, flicking over, flicking this way. Who cares, as long as you produce a somewhat repeatable ball flight and your misses are somewhat tight. Now, if this miss that you have at impact, if it causes a rope hook and a block to heaven can't pull, that's going to cost you many strokes around. Yes, that needs to be addressed. But if your misses are tight enough, hey, don't spend too much time there. Maybe go take statistics and look at your whole game in general to see where you suffer the most. All right, and last question, last but not least. This was a bonus. This was not on the community post, but it's a good question. Any thoughts on presetting the hips that open from square stance for someone who struggles to get hip turn through impact? Great question. I hear it a lot. So think about this. Everybody has a set range of motion they're working with. Some people can get 90 degrees to 90 degrees. Whatever your range is, you gotta look at the ratio of where you use it. So in other words, what are you trying to promote? Are you trying to promote a more inside out path or more outside in? Positives to both of those and negatives. Inside out can decrease the spin, can get you more distance, but it's harder to control. Outside in, more spin makes the land a little bit softer on the greens. It's a little bit easier to control. Your misses aren't as wild. You potentially can hit them the same distance, but the potential for inside to out, so you can probably hit it a little bit further if you time things up. But having said that, if I only have 90 degrees range of motion, just for argument's sake, and I start with a more open position, let's say I start at 45 degrees. If I go in and turn to 45 degrees in the back, I've neutralized my hips. My hands cannot get deep enough, so I need to do this. Now all of a sudden, if I start doing that, what do I need to do to hit the golf ball? Could be too many compensations. If I don't make any adjustments here, and I just swing normally, I'm gonna have a very steep outside in motion. It's gonna be tough to hit the golf ball. On the contrary, if I close them 45 degrees, and I go ahead and turn my 45 degrees of range, I'm at 90 degrees here. Even if I go ahead and turn as much as I can, I'm only gonna get to, zero out about here at impact. With 0 degrees of hip at impact, I'm going to be coming so far into out, I'm going to be struggling. So you have to know your total range of motion, work with the ratio. If you want to close them down a little bit, open it up a little bit, that's fine. But just understand it can cause some issues with your plane. So what do you want out of golf? You want a little steeper, you want a little flatter.
Microphone went out for a little bit here, but basically just look at your ratios of where you want to use your ratios correctly. I wouldn't really suggest opening or closing the hips unless you can look at your cause and effect that will cause in your golf swing.
I'm gonna just let you watch me hit these 4-8 golf balls, and then I'm signing out. So, fairways and greens, everybody. If you want to stay and watch me hit these 8, go ahead. If not, I'll see you for tomorrow's video. That was having camp. That was good. I'm working on what I worked on last week. I came last week. I haven't hit balls since then. Ooh, that was good. I like this 5-iron. Let me slow it down. There. Better tempo. Who's going to win the NBA Finals for whoever's with me? I think Indiana's taking it. Boy, that felt good. I got to come out and do these videos more often. Got the senior tour coming up. All right, 2 more. Let's do this. I'm going to hit 2 right on top of each other. It's a good way to test your ball striking ability. Can you hit both pretty good? All right, guys. Paris greens.